Sorry about that, man. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. This page, obviously, is still only at 1 hour lives. So we'll finish out this last 3 minutes. We'll get the Crystal Rose stuff finished up, and then we're going to get Luna. We'll end about 9:57. Just 1 hour lives. Yeah. But let's finish out these last. I think there's two giveaways we got left. Sorry about that, man. I totally forgot.
Yeah, they still got you on that short leash.
Yeah, they do. They do. I see 99 Revelations. I mean, he missed his. He was the winner. He's in here now. That's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, let's because I don't want to take anybody more time, so let's do him and have him DM me because I didn't screenshot that one. So have him DM me,
All right,
and
99 Revelations. Make sure you get with Drew, Crystal Rose, and Lowe's Grows. Let us know you're here. We're gonna finish this out, and we're gonna get Luna in here. All right, I haven't seen Lowe's Grows. Lowe's Grows, if you're here, let us know you're here. I'm just gonna spin it back. We just need one more winner.
just one more. Big bucks, no whammies, right? Free
No
packs of
whammies.
seeds, guys. Free
No
packs of
whammies.
seeds.
Lowe's Grows just came in the room. All right, so we're just gonna call it Lowe's Grows. He was
Bet.
here. I
All
see
right,
him.
have him. Again, yo, hit me up, Lowe's Grows. I'm not screenshotting this, so just hit me up, and we'll get this sent out to you. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. It's been a long time with you, man.
Yeah, man,
Doing
absolutely.
this, doing this a long time.
You know, I feel like we didn't have enough time for some reason, to be
Yeah,
honest.
because I
So,
was
well,
late as fuck.
because you were late. That's why, because you were late. That's
Because I
right.
was late as fuck. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
Uh
feel you.
huh.
My bad. I'm so sorry. I'm
Well,
so
well,
sorry.
maybe next Wednesday night on the regular night we could talk
Yeah,
about the new
hit me on the
drop and.
later slot. Hit me in a later slot.
All right.
All right, cool. I
All right. So
appreciate you, man. Thank you so
you got.
much.
All right. You got it,
Yeah,
brother.
later.
Peace. All right. Let's get Luna in here. And can somebody type out what was already typed out, guys? Um, hit the little question box for all questions. That if somebody could type that out, somebody could type that out, and I get pin it there. I would appreciate that. All right, let me see if I could. There she is, right there. All right, let's get her in here. All right. Hello.
Man. How you
How are
doing?
you doing?
Pretty good. Been really busy.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has been so busy, especially with the 420 weekend, the set,
Yeah.
just everything.
Yeah, the
And
420 seed sale week was
yeah,
hectic. It was
very
super
hectic.
hectic.
So how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. Might go out with some friends later. So working on stuff, working on this cannabis license application and filling orders and working on plans and stuff. I'm fighting a little cold, so I'm a little raspy, so forgive me. But I've been working, I've been grinding.
Hey, man, it's definitely that time of the year too, with the temperature swings and everything. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Whenever the climate changes, I kind of get like a little cough thing going on.
so why don't you? I mean, I'm pretty sure mostly everybody knows who you are, but why don't you introduce yourself and, we'll
Sure.
let them start to ask some questions as well. I'm sure they have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Luna Wickham. I am a grower, educator, consultant, writer, author for Skunk Magazine. I've written for Greenpoint Seeds. Um, I write cannabis applications. I've consulted on indoor, outdoor greenhouse, hemp fields, um, all like regenerative, organic, living soil stuff, you know, and like all the processes surrounding it, like microscopy, soil balancing theory, um, a lot of like agronomy and enzymology. I talk a lot about biology profiles and inoculants and yeah, that kind of stuff.
okay. So, and with that being said, and you do breeding as well. I see
Hmm.
that. So,
Hmm.
um, I think that you have your own website. That's how you. Where would they be
So
able to purchase your seeds?
the website's actually being built right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a soft launch here probably in the next couple weeks. I was hoping to have it done by 420, but that just didn't happen. But you can contact me about seeds and stuff. I work a lot with genetics that I got from like I don't know if people are familiar with like the Concow area, but it's outside of like Chico. That's where I first started doing organic growing over 10 years ago. And so I have things like DJ Short's Blueberry on Kryptonite. We called it Blue Night. And like played a lot with that with like UK cheese and stuff and like working that into some like modern lines. But I like to use really unique, like old school ish stuff that's like not really in the market. And those particular genetics, they were really popular in this Concow, California area,
Yeah.
um, which has since burnt down in the campfire. And I haven't seen those genetics anywhere else before. Um, but through Superfire, and they have like this blueberry cheese, like creamy, kind of buttery thing going on. And I've used that as my staple. I call it the lunar cheese. And I put that on a bunch of other stuff. Sorry, hold on. So yeah, so I've been doing breeding. Um, God, I don't know how long. What, like 7 years now.
Okay.
Um, and I've been working that line for a while. Yes. So you can hit me up for seeds. I have like lists available and stuff, but I don't have my website up yet. I have like a Patreon also that I do like educational content on. Um, yeah, and I have my podcast that I do on Future Cannabis Project, and I've done them on different channels and stuff before that. But I've been doing podcasts for a few years now too. So yeah, I do it all. I do it all.
Yeah, sounds like you do it all.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, let me see. I think we have a question here. Let's see. So if you guys have any questions at all, like I said, feel free.
What
Look what's pinned.
inspired me to breed? So the farm that I was working on where I first started doing like organic cultivation, the guy there was like a mad scientist breeder. Um, and he just kind of taught me, all the stuff that he knew. Um, I just found it super interesting, the science behind, genetics and like working alleles and phenotypes and everything. It's really interesting and complicated, and I love to like dive into the minutia of like kind of complicated concepts, and like really get into them. So um, creating something unique is always big to me, like having something uh, that isn't out there, that just that isn't quite represented in anything else, is like really what I strive for, like unique nose, unique um, like physiological effects, like therapeutic effects and how they make you feel. Um, I just want something different. I wanted something different. Um, so yeah, I think that's mostly the inspiration behind it.
And so they want to know what your best strain
My
is.
best
And I know that,
strain.
yeah, this question comes up with
The
everybody I bring on.
the
So,
the the best strain. It depends on what you like.
it's
You know,
exactly,
it
yeah.
depends on what you like. Is the best the highest yielding? Is it the most potent? Is it the one with the most terpenes? Does it have, the best structure? Does it make you feel the best? Is it a balance of all those things? Personally, my favorite to smoke is the raspberry moon cheese and the moon diamonds. But a lot of people really love the lemon guru cheese. A lot of people just love the original moon or lunar cheese. Um, I mean, it's really up to like what you're into. Like, I like things that are gonna help me sleep, and that are good for pain. So my raspberry moon cheese is like my go-to, and it just tastes amazing. So that's like mine. But in terms of like the best, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
I,
mean?
I feel like that's always sort of the answer that I get from everybody that comes through. It just depends. It really depends on you
It depends
sometimes
on,
too.
yeah, it depends
You
on like
know,
what you like.
yeah.
Like, what do you like? What do you want? What are you looking for?
Um, what is your earliest finisher outdoors?
Mm, everything is mostly like 8 to 9 weeks. Um, the moon cheese gelato finishes really early. Um, I'd probably say that's like the earliest finisher.
So they said, so speaking of older genetics, you see the question. Do you have any
Mhm.
OG skunk in the works?
Yeah, so I forgot to talk about that. I have so many things going on. Um, so like I'm doing a project with um Purple Caper and Skunk Magazine where we're like bringing back the like old school skunk aroma. And not to say that it doesn't exist already out there, but we're making a whole bunch of them. And if you follow me and you've seen my big depth bed, that whole bed is now dedicated to this breeding project. Um, so yeah, we are working on skunk stuff. So if you aren't familiar with Purple Caper, him and Ed Rosenthal, they did like this epic seed hunt where they collected all the different skunk from all the different people from all over the country and the world, and they hunted through some obscene number of seeds and pheno hunted it down to six, and then gave the tissue culture clones to me, and I mothered them out, and I have them breeding in my dep right now, and they should be done late May. The harvest will be done sooner than that, but the processing and the packaging and all that stuff, it should be available by late May. But we're bringing a bunch of skunk in.
Yeah, it's going to be something through Skunk Magazine as well, right? It's
Yeah, Skunk Magazine is like doing all the marketing and building the website for it and stuff like that. It's like a collaborative effort between myself, Skunk Magazine, and Frank at Purple Caper.
So what have you been finding in your hunts? Have you been finding really skunky? Like I'm sure it's
So the hunt was already done,
okay.
but
Oh,
like
they did it. Okay.
in so this is the first time I cultivated these genetics, but we have like some like peppery skunk. There's like some sweetness. There's some like really foul, kind of like rancid, almost like dead carcass kind of like smells too. Um, and then I also threw my lunar cheese out there too to be pollinated by the alpha skunk. But we used like the Trinity, the Chili Verde, and then three different phenotypes of alpha skunk. We're also putting it on Durban Poison, uh, Northern Lights number one, and there's one more. I forgot, but
Uh, um. Uh. What's your backdrop? What's up?
what?
He said, "What's your backdrop?"
What does that mean?
I
Oh, this?
guess you.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
ohm. The ohm. Ohm.
The
You know,
oh.
the ohm. The sound
Oh.
that created the universe.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Hey, so what's your name? I don't
Oh.
I don't.
I'm Chad, man.
Hey,
Wait. What's
Chad.
what's your
Oh,
name?
I'm
Luna?
Luna. Hey, it's good to meet you.
Okay. I mean,
What's up, dude?
screen names we don't always know, so I
No, my
figured
name's
I'd
Luna. Yeah,
ask.
yeah, my name's Luna.
All right, just checking.
What's up, man?
All right, yeah. So I'm Chad anyway.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chad. Yeah, sorry.
For all you
I
guys out
figured we
there,
should know each other.
yeah, like this is how I do it. We have not talked. We don't know each other, and I try to tell everybody that, man. It always, organic. I like it just to go like this. I don't know what kind of questions we're gonna ask or anything like that. We let
Cool.
you guys ask the questions. So
Sweet.
I
That's the
apologize. I
intros
should
that
have,
you're looking for.
introduced myself at first, I guess. But
So, so all of that stuff was done by Frank, and I'm just the grower for it. Um, so like it was skunk. It was like the original skunk smells and like that profile of like original skunk smells. And that was all done by Frank during like the hunt that he did. There's an article on it on Skunk Magazine. I think it's called The Great Skunk Hunt. Um, and it kind of outlines the details of how it was done. Uh, so all of that like hunting for traits and stuff, that was like all done, and I was given like the breeder clones, and then I did like the silver thiosulfate treatments and reverted the clone of the alpha skunk 45 and pollinated so we can create S1s. And these are the first S1s of these seeds that are going to be um, on the market, and they're all
okay, so you
feminized.
guys are doing.
So it'll be,
Uh,
yeah, it's all
is the whole
feminized S1s.
the whole line's going to be feminized? Okay.
Yeah, the whole line's gonna be feminized. Yeah.
Um, what what's the main trait you were looking for this last breeding project?
Yeah. So that's the question I just
That's what
answered.
he was just. That's what he was just
Yeah, yeah.
answering. Um, do notice a difference in the flavor profiles in a no-till organic versus any other mediums that you've tried?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I've grown hydroponic also. Um, I've done like crop steering and stuff too. I definitely notice a difference in the expression personally, with the fullness of the aromas and like the depth of the aromas. You kind of like you'll smell it and you'll smell it again and you'll smell it again and you'll smell like the profile evolve, or like you'll get it on your fingers and the smells will change over time. Um, there's just more depth to it and there's more depth to the flavor in my experience. um and a whole bunch of people are gonna, they might like fight me on it and be like, this isn't true, whatever. Um but in my experience with the way that I cultivate living soil, I 100% notice a difference in the expression, the aroma expression. We can get into the science of like how that works if you want. It's kind of a longer conversation, but I'm happy to get into it. But it has a lot to do with like cofactors, enzymes, and diversity of enzymes and like how they form um, terpenes and volatile compounds in trichome heads. Uh, if you want like a really in-depth explanation, I recommend checking out a podcast that I did with Murphy Murray, who's like this, female legendary female extractor. Um, on the Future Cannabis Project, we did it. It was called The Science of Terpenes. And we go into details of like which enzymes, will biosynthesize specific organic or volatile organic compounds, and how like if those enzymes aren't present, they simply won't biosynthesize. Um, and the diversity of organic matter, the diversity of enzymes, the diversity of carbohydrates and amino acids, will provide the foundation for larger, like volatile compound expression in living soil. So if you're interested in that kind of conversation, definitely check that out. But that's like pretty much it. The more diversity of compounds present in living soil add for like a larger foundation for different aromas to be created.
Hmm. And where can they go see this at?
So this is on the Future Cannabis
Okay,
Project on the
on
YouTube channel.
YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, you could read that one. Is there any strain you created? Asking for a friend.
Beautiful and gothic. You're funny. Um, I mean, like dark purple. So I mean, my moon diamond sits really nice and dark and purple. Is that goth? I don't know.
I mean,
I am
dark
kind
and
of.
purple. I guess we can sort of
I kind
maybe.
of.
No,
I kind of.
maybe,
Yeah. Maybe.
maybe.
That's funny. You're funny.
um,
Best way to stabilize is a plant ferment. I'm trying to bottle some up for over the winter. Um. So, so the way that I overwintered my ferment was I just left it in its original vessel, with like a fermenting airlock, like a little water bubble lock. Um, and I left it outside and I let it hard freeze. It got down to like -7 at times here, Fahrenheit, and the whole fucking barrel froze solid. And I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And then when it thawed out and I opened it up and there was a nice, healthy, thick pellicle on it and it was still very much so alive. Um, so that's what I did. I mean, when a ferment is done, like consuming all of its carbohydrates, it's going to stop creating CO2. So the key is to just stop feeding it, and let it finish its fermentation, and then you should be able to take it out and bottle it up. That's not always the case, and there's a typical recipe we follow when making our like fermented plant extracts, which is like 1 to 20 molasses, lactobacillus, and water. And it's supposed to be done in 3 weeks. The pH is supposed to drop between like 3.2 and 3.7, or 3.5 is kind of like ideal. And that's like it's done, right? But if you overfed it, if you add like a whole bunch, or not overfed, if you just provided an excess of carbohydrates, simple or complex, it'll continue to ferment. Um, and so some people like to pull the molasses out when they do that. But my point being is if all of the sugar sources haven't been consumed within that time frame, it'll continue to off gas CO2. So you just let it go until it stops, and then you can bottle it up. My lunar cheese is so it's DJ Short's blueberry on kryptonite, which is pretty old school, like the Cottonmouth Kings used to rap about it back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And then
Crypto,
yeah, the crypt,
kryptonite.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's the DJ Shorts Blueberry on Kryptonite on UK cheese, and that's my lunar cheese. And
And the
it's
U
pretty wicked.
okay. So like a skunky, the UK cheese is sort of the skunky,
Yeah,
sort of
yeah. So UK cheese is a phenotype of skunk one.
skunk one.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, what do we got? What do we got? Here we go. What can I expect from Cheesehead? She's about
Hmm.
to grow it out. I know she's about to grow it
So that's
out
a
too.
lunar cheese on Deadhead OG.
No.
Deadhead OG.
Ah,
Um, what is? Oh God, I should know the answer to this. So you can expect like a gassiness, it's a strong gas for sure. It's heavy, it's sedative, but that blueberry characteristic,
ooh.
it it breathes true in like everything. Like it doesn't go away. And every time I've used this lunar cheese and crossed it on anything, it comes through everything. So you get that like berry cheesiness on like a gas. But it's very gassy, the Deadhead, which
Yeah, I can't
I
remember
think it's
what the
just
deadhead
OG
is.
Kush. It's just OG Kush on something.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, I can't
I
remember what the
forget.
other part is.
I can't remember either. Maybe, mm,
I, I should
mm.
know what it is too, to be honest. I can look it up real quick. Let me see.
But it's heavy. It's a heavy yielder too. Blue trichome dense. It's a beautiful plant.
You know what? That sounds really good. Blueberry Gazzy. Um, yeah. So the Deadhead OG is Chem 91 SFB OG. That's what the Deadhead is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the SFE is killer. Yeah, the Chem 91 too.
And I know she's on the SFV too because I know, yeah. So that's a good one. Um, what are your personal grows right now?
What do you mean?
I guess I would assume they're asking of something that you're growing just for yourself, maybe. Like
Oh, like my
what?
head stash?
I'm assuming that's what they're asking, but just reading it for what it is. Yeah, yeah, your
Um,
head stash.
I don't know. I mean, I have head stash for myself. Um, So everything I'm growing right now is the skunk project. I have the breeding project, and then I'm growing the same clones indoors, so that I can have the pollinated ones for seed, but then I can have the flower itself. So I'm growing the flower, the same clones that I did breeding with. I'm growing them not pollinated indoors also. Um, but I'm really looking forward to smoking that Durban poison.
The Durban skunk, right?
The Durban, yeah. Oh my God. It's just like the smells that come off of that thing are unreal. They're unreal. Like I said earlier, like with like depth, it has that depth to it. And you can tell, like why it was so popular and like used so much in like a lot of different breeding. Because the aroma is so unique, but it has like layer on layer and you smell it and you get hit with this like sharpness that just like changes and like transforms like really quickly. Um and it kind of has like Jack Herrera smell to it,
Yeah, yeah. The
like
Durban is good now.
the Durban's
Yeah,
fire. The Northern Lights is fire. Those alpha skunks are putting off some wicked smells. Honestly, like all of it is super fucking fire. Um, but yeah, so that's what I'm growing like as like my personal like and head stash. You know,
um, what's
what's my
your
staple
staple
strain?
strains?
That's the
The
lunar
one, yeah.
cheese. Yeah, that's like my staple, my foundational strain.
Okay.
Long
What's the longest
time.
time you ever cured for?
Well, one time I left a Tupperware full of some gelato.
For like I found it.
And
It was five
on,
years later.
I put it on top of my refrigerator and it fell behind it, and then I moved my refrigerator. No,
Oh,
I don't know. Um, but no, I did find some gelato that was in a Tupperware, that I just found somewhere, and I opened it up. I actually still have some. Hold on a second, because I saw it I was like, this thing cured super fucking well. Um, and it still looks like really, really good. But it's now, it was from a run like a year and a half ago. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can even make this look good on here. But
Here, wait, let me turn off the
uh,
comments for 1 sec. There we go. There we go. All
I
right.
don't know if you can really like see it. Hold up, hold up, hold up. I gotta show you guys because it's super fire. It like barely oxidized at all.
Let me get that.
See it? Look
Nah,
at that. Look at that. Look how fire
it
that
looks
is. That's
fucking
like
beautiful.
year and a half old living soil. There
So
we go.
when we're
Looking.
talking about like drying times and stuff, and curing, like, what is your preferred method of drying, curing, all that?
Drying and curing. So, everything stays refrigerated. It's just 62, 62, for like a week, and then drop humidity down a little bit, down to like maybe like 55, and then like down to 50. But I do a 2 week dry usually,
Hmm.
um, and then I like to put it in jars. That's 2/3 full, and then burp it once a day. Do that for a couple
How do you
weeks,
how do
probably
you feel
until
about
like it's 30 days old.
how do you feel about those the bags? I just forgot what they're called. The grow bags, grew
Oh,
bags.
like turkey bags?
They're like these specific bags. I think they work pretty good. I mean, I have been in jars for so long, and I tried the bags, and the bags are actually pretty amazing.
I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Uh, Sort of like these.
That's cool. I've never tried them.
Yeah. I never tried them until like I had used jars forever. I tried them. I was like, damn, these things are pretty. They work pretty good, man.
Sweet.
Um, any washers?
Yeah, for sure. The original Lunar cheese is a great washer. The raspberry moon cheese has really long trichome necks and like large trichome heads, which are great for washing. The lemon guru cheese also has that trait. Um, I'd say that those three are probably the best washers.
Um, so what are some of your more mold mildew resistant strains for outdoor greenhouse?
So anything with like a citrus aroma is going to be a little bit more mold resistant. Just limonene by nature is like antifungal, antimicrobial. So the lemongrass cheese is going to be really good. That I say would be the most mold resistant, but anything that has like a citrus profile is going to be super mold resistant. What am I most passionate about? Oh, the soil. um, the soil for sure. I'm a huge soil nerd. Um, I love the plant. I love plants. Soil, soil just it gets me. It's got a special place in my heart. And I mean,
Let's
soil
go.
is so many things. It's just a combination of a whole bunch of different organisms just all working together and like being interdependent and like cooperative and providing needs to each other in like this just symbiotic way. um, and like we can observe it and we can find gaps in it and we can integrate them and watch the plant thrive because of the attention to detail that we give it. We can give them companion plants for root exudates. There's an infinite ways of like approaching soil health through ferments, through teas, through sprouting seeds and blending them and blending up plant matter and introducing it is it's just like you like just the more that like you just like attend to it and the more that like you pay attention to it and understand like how soil works, the better it functions. And like I just find that really fucking cool and rewarding, you know what I mean?
Very
like
much so.
like like weed is dope, but
Yeah,
I like soil even
you're
more,
like
I think.
soil. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like soil even more than the weed.
Do you, I mean, when you make your own, are you make your, obviously you're making your own soil. What, all organic, I know that. I
Mhm.
mean, give these guys a basic rundown of your soil, what you use. I'm sure
Like how
they might.
how I make it.
Yeah,
So
why not?
I'll make different I'll take different approaches to soil too. I don't believe in like the best, and like people will come up and be like, this is the best. Everything is different. Different soil compositions are going to have different, they're going to create different expressions in the plant. I had Kevin Jodring on my podcast, and we were talking about this, where he's noticed throughout different um, like topographical locations with different topographies and climates and stuff, you get different soils that express um, different plant characteristics better. And he was saying like his on his farm expresses like really good gassy profiles, and you get like more gas out of his soil. So it's all about like building different soils, and there is no like book to like explain like what's better for gas and this and that, and I wish there was, and there probably could be.
Right.
um my approach to my soil, um so I use a lot of plant inputs, I use a lot of mineral inputs. I also use like ocean byproduct inputs, which you got to be careful about overusing because it does have high sodium content, and sodium just like fucks up soil. But sodium's also the one that like is the most easily leached out. So you can easily flush it out really, really easily, quickly. I build my soil to be low in nitrogen content, so it doesn't get as hot. Like nitrogen is what's going to really create all that heat. And what I do instead is I add a lot of amino acids to kind of make up for that original build with nitrogen. So like I won't use like alfalfa meal or like feather meal. I'll just omit the nitrogen component completely and like mix it up, and then I'll give it a nice flush because to get all that like sodium and stuff out. Because when you're overwatering and things, you're going to lose your phosphates, and you're going to lose um, your like nitrogen sources, your nitrates, your like forms of nitrogen. And so I'll also introduce like phosphorus throughout my growth cycle too. Like I like to use like micronized rock phosphate, or just like fishbone meal and things like that. Um, so my approach is I use a lot of earthworm castings. I don't use thermophilic compost at all, just because it's been shown to have more diversity than thermophilic compost. When you heat, like the nature of like heating up compost and having it get hot and like cooking things, it'll kill off certain profiles of bacteria. Um, while earthworm castings are a mesophilic decomposition, the earthworms, they eat the organic matter. It runs through their gut biome. It's a better way of like making like compost free of like pathogens and stuff. While thermophilic composting like really relies on that heat to make sure that you don't get pathogens, and if it doesn't stay in the right ranges, it can create pathogens. I'm like totally ranting, but that's the
Rant
general
away,
idea.
rant away,
So
rant away.
I use a lot of earthworm castings, usually between like 5 and 10%. There have been times where I've pushed it up to like 20, and I know that there's certain recipes out there on the internet like Coots Mix that go even up to 30. Um, there, there's this concept where um, if the soil holds on to moisture too much, it won't like give it to the plant. Um, so I like to make sure that I don't add too much organic matter because it'll actually slow down the growth rate of your plant.
Hmm.
So I like to keep it between like 5 and 10% earthworm castings. Um, I'll build my soil recipe based on like soil balancing theory. You can look that up. That's a nice buzzword for you. Um, really dive into that stuff. I think people really forget like the importance of balancing nutrients. It's not just, we're not just adding nutrients. We're creating like a perpetual chemical reaction in our soil that's being like catalyzed by biology. It's being catalyzed by enzymes, by amino acids, and by carbohydrates that create covalent bonds and that change the form of the nutrients and other forms of the forms of chemicals, right? Because everything is a chemical. Changing the forms of of these chemicals to make them available to the plant in ways that they can use it. And sometimes they create reactions that you don't want to create because your ratios are off, and you're making them not available to the plant. So having them in proper balance in your soil is really important. So understanding how soil balancing theory works is really key. Um, so look that up if you're really interested into it or really interested in it. But living soil is like really simple, but it's also like super fucking complicated. You know what I mean? Um, and that's like one of the things that I like really like about it is like once you get it, you understand it, and you put it in place. It's like you can just water it, and it grows really, really well. Or you can like way overcomplicate it and get all crazy and like
Yeah,
complicate it and play with a whole bunch of different things and try new things. And I encourage people to do that. Just expect that you're going to make mistakes, and if you do, like pick yourself up and do it again. Um,
that's how we learn. You know,
how we
I
learn.
feel like it is good to make mistakes and learn from them and fix, and and then you understand what you did wrong, and you just know. It's just in life as well as in growing. You
I've
know.
made a tremendous amount of mistakes in my life and in growing.
Yeah, and
I've
hey,
killed,
join the
I've
club,
killed,
man.
I've killed so many plants. I've had complete crop failures because of a ferment that I made. Like it fucking happens.
It
This is a long time
happens.
ago, so this is a
Yeah,
while ago. So
yeah,
you
it
can
happens.
follow my recipes now. But when I was first like playing around with Korean natural farming, like I lost a fucking crop because of it. You know, be careful.
All right. Did we talk? Does the Luna cheese stretch a lot during flower? Do we get to that?
She can stretch if she has enough light. She'll stretch. She was and if she doesn't have enough light, she'll stretch too. But she was bred in an area with a lot of like light intensity. Um, and I've noticed that when she's outdoors, she stretches a lot more than when she's indoors. I have a whole bunch of pictures. Actually, I think my most recent post that I put up is a picture of this big plant that I grew in Southern Oregon, and that's a lunar cheese. Um, she'll definitely stretch for sure, but she can take a lot of light. She can take a lot of feeding. She can take a lot of light.
What beneficial pests do you use? And maybe you want to
Mm,
talk about IPM a little bit too?
sure, we can talk about IPM. So it really depends on what pests you're fighting, right? Um, when I was in Southern Oregon, I had a different range of predatory insects and mites that I used, and nematodes, because there were specific things that I was fighting, and that's like the real key. And there's even like thrips where there's different species where some will like live in the ground or like live in the soil and climb up the plant. There's some that live on the leaf surface, and so you can like fight it with like Stratiolaelap scomitis like in the soil. But if it lives on the leaf surface, you have to use like aureus mites. It really, really depends on what it is that you're fighting, and if you have like what predatory insect do you use for this pest, I'm happy to answer that question. What is your most heaviest hitter for sleep relaxation? Oh, that's probably my raspberry moon cheese, and the cheesehead OG. The cheesehead OG kind of sometimes gets people like too high though, and then they like have like panic attacks when they're not sleeping. But if you don't smoke too much of it, um, it'll put you to sleep for sure.
I'm gonna have to get some of your seeds. I'm gonna have to.
Hugelkultur and fabric pots. Yeah, I mean, like yeah, I got seeds. I got seeds right
Yeah, I'm
here.
gonna have to get some from you, man. I gotta grow out some of your goos, no doubt about it. The
Yeah,
blueberry gas just
it's nice, right? Yeah, that's
sounds
good stuff.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
So hugelkultur in fabric pots. So when I hear that, I think of like just adding wood into a fabric pot and then putting soil on top of it. Um, Hugelkultur, from what I
Hmm.
understand, I've never actually grown hugelkultur before, is like mounds of wood that are covered with soil. Um, so I mean, people have been putting wood in their planters for a long time. Um, I mean, you can do it. People do it. It's a thing. It's good for like, fungal bodies and stuff and like fungal diversity. Um, there's a lot of talk about whether or not the wood is going to like pull nitrogen out of the soil and stuff. Um, I'm really big on adding nitrogen throughout the growth cycle in forms of amino acids. I've also heard of people like watering their wood with amino acids with like a potent dilution of amino acids to like put the nitrogen directly on the wood before using it. Um, but I've never never heard of it mentioned as like hugelkultur in fabric pots like that before. Um,
And you see, and he also says, you see, rotting logs at the bottom of at least 100 gallon. Do you see that
mm,
part at the bottom too?
I
Okay.
probably should have read the whole comment, right?
I just want to make sure you see the
um,
whole thing.
yeah, yeah. um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
heard it called hugelkultur though, but people do that in like growing food all the time.
All right, there you go. If you could change one thing about this industry, what would it be?
People chasing high THC numbers instead of terpene numbers.
It's wild, right?
You
Like it
know,
is wild, man. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
people people thinking that crop steering is the only successful way that you can operate a facility. That would be up there too. Um, and don't get me wrong, I have mad respect for hydroponic growers. You know, I've grown hydroponic, I've done crop steering before, and I pulled killer fucking numbers. I pulled 3.2 off of 500 watts, you know, crop steering. Um, like it works and it grows good weed, and you get high yields. I just don't prefer to smoke it.
There you go. Um, well, she does not. Well, I'll let you answer. Do you have a website for
Not
seeds yet?
yet. Not yet. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I have been super busy with other things. I just got back from New Zealand, and then the 420 week seed sales and writing this cannabis application, you know, license application. And I'm working on that too. But it should be within the next couple of weeks. I'll have the website up. But you can hit me up directly if you're interested in any of my genetics.
Uh, I know the honeybee has microbiology in their guts like worms. Can you use any bee products in the garden?
That's a great question. So bees won't they're not like decomposers, you know, they don't eat plant matter. And so like their excrement isn't going to be super, I mean, do they, I don't know a lot about bees. However, I do know that beeswax is high in triacontanol, which is a phytohormone, um, that will promote cell division, stem elongation, density of chlorophyll, and people use it in the agriculture world in synthetic form. And people, you know, it's known as a PGR, but it exists in alfalfa and it exists in beeswax in really high numbers. And I've talked to people about, you know, potentially extracting triacontanol from beeswax and using that. And I had a friend send some to me, and I just never got around to doing it or trying to do it. Because once you try something, you now have to get it shipped off to a lab to see if it actually worked. Um, but you could just try something and then put it on your plant and see if it has a response. Um, but a lot of the time, just because something has a physiological response doesn't mean it has a physiological response for the reason that you think it does. Um, all organic acids create physiological responses in plants. And so you can extract a whole bunch of different organic acids. It doesn't mean that one of them is tricontanol, and you can have a plant benefit, but it doesn't mean it's because of tricontanol. So, I mean, sure, you could probably use bee products. I know that people use bee pollen also, or bee pollen. Is it bee I don't know. People use pollen. People use pollen. You collect pollen from bees. Um, bees collect pollen. Can you collect the pollen off of the bees?
I think
Um,
I think they
so
move pollen too.
yeah, they move
So
pollen.
right?
Anyway,
Yeah.
what am I thinking of? Anyway, yeah, I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can.
Okay. Can I ask Luna if she ever made a cross and it really didn't turn out as expected, and was not happy with it, and what was
Yep, yep.
it? Many
Um,
times. No.
yeah, so I was playing with this genetic called Megalodon, and I was putting it on Blue Dream, and it just created this these buds that just never filled out. The plants would get absolutely monstrous, and then the buds would just they just never got dense. The plant just like wouldn't finish. And maybe I needed it to go for like 20 weeks or something, like one of those like crazy landrace sativas, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but
I do.
I had to abandon the line completely. Um, uh,
It happens. It
yeah.
happens. Uh, Um, what do you think about those devices that they use inside commercial grow facilities to control mildew and mold, like Aerios by Sage?
I'm not familiar with that particular piece of equipment,
Mm.
but I assume it's like a UV treatment, which is great. You know, the
Um,
UV and like ozone idea is really good. You just obviously you can't ozone a room with flower in it, because you're gonna you're gonna remove all the aroma from the room. Um,
mhm.
but there are like filtration systems that use UV and ozone that will, yeah, 100% like remove mold spores and stuff from the airspace.
What the hell was I just? Man, I was going to say something. I forgot.
Get your buzz fattened up.
Um,
Um, yeah, you can add molasses for sure. It's a simple carbohydrate, glucose, right? If you can add these carbohydrates to your soil, and you're going to feed the biology. You're going to stimulate it. Um, I personally try to stay away from adding too much molasses. When you these simple sugars, they get consumed really, really quickly, but they also, when they're when that food source is gone, then the bacterial population will just die. Um, so these, carbohydrates are our energy source, and in nature, the most prolific energy source for biology is polysaccharides, which are complex carbohydrates. Um, Things like beta glucan, inulin, chitin is another one. It's a fibrous polysaccharide. So yeah, you can 100% do that. Um, uh, I would afterwards, let your soil rest and then reintroduce inoculants, because they feed like a narrow spectrum of biology. Not everything wants to eat that as its ideal food source. So I like to incorporate like a diversity of polysaccharides because it's going to feed a wider diversity of biology, instead of adding a simple sugar like that, which will feed a much more narrow, diversity of biology. But you can 100% do it. And I've done it before, and like it
mhm.
works. Um, Molasses also has fulvic acid in it. And oftentimes when we see like benefit from using an input in our soil, um, it's because we're filling a gap in whatever's like absent in our soil. And sometimes we don't really know what that is when we add, like, we don't really know what the gap is when we add like something that has multiple compounds in it, or we add a concoction that has multiple compounds in it, but we know that we're filling some gap. So it could be that you need, more fulvic acid or more humates in your soil, right? Like more humic acids, um, or fulvic acids, um, and that's what's like helping your plant develop better. Or it could be that the biology is underfed. So it could be either of those things when you're using molasses. Just keep that in mind. Like, it's all about filling gaps in our soil, and trying to figure out what that is. And so we introduce all the different potential variables of what the soil needs, so that we don't have to fill those gaps. And then the plant thrives from the very beginning to end. Um, but thumbs down? Oh no.
I don't know what that is, man. Yeah. Um, what indoor lights do you use?
My indoor actually has four different fixtures in it because I wanted to see which ones were best. Um,
Well, I'll do
so I have
it.
uh, uh, I have Lux, I have Fluence, I have Nanolux, and then I have a local company called Peak Roots in my indoor. And um, honestly, they, they're all like pretty much identical.
A light is a light. I had a light company come
they
out with me one night, and they literally said that a light is a light. I guess it
like
is. I think light is a
they're
light.
they're there there's like there's no, I don't really notice the difference at
No.
all. No.
Uh, when will the Skunk Crosses be
The
released? It's
End of
coming
May
soon.
is our goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming soon, guys. Coming soon.
Mhm.
Okay. Back to IPM. I have crazy issues with deers and slugs in my garden. Uh, copper tape for slugs. Thanks. Copper tape for slugs.
Slugs. Get some ducks. Um, get some ducks in there. For slugs, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never had to fight slugs before. With deer, though, I know that you can take the urine of predators,
hmm
and surround your property with it,
hmm
and then they smell like mountain lion urine, and they're like, "Don't go
They don't
there."
want to
Um,
come in. Yep.
yeah, or you can. I mean, it's gross, but you can also spread your own brand of stuff around too, and that'll help too.
Uh,
Oh,
I mean, I
sorry, our
think
pods are dying.
we just. So, I know you just talked about that the brown sugar or the molasses. So I think his for compost
Um,
tea, what would you use, molasses or brown sugar?
I mean, people use molasses. I've used molasses a whole bunch of times for compost tea, but I've been playing a lot with using beet juice, and I talk about that in my posts often. Is I've been using beet juice and oat flour, which starch is really good in the oat flour. Oat flour has a lot of like lipids too. Has a diversity of lipids. Lipids are really good for feeding biology. Also, beets contain a polysaccharide called inulin. And how I stumbled upon this was there was a time when I was like really into making kombucha. And I was actually making kombucha to treat powder mildew on my plants at one point.
Yeah.
Um, and I noticed that the most carbonated kombucha was the best to treat powder mildew. Maybe because of the agitation or like, agitating the powder mildew to like get the enzymes in there or the pH change, like who knows. But it worked. And so I was playing around with like what was going to make things most carbonated. Um, and where I was at the time, we had like a solid garden. And so I was making kombucha with lilac and I was making it with orange and I was making it with peach and cherries and we had beets and I threw beets in there and the beets always got like the most carbonated the quickest. um, and the more I looked into beets and like the profile within beets, I looked it up on Dr. Duke's phytochemical database, which is another really good resource for people to look at, uh, like phytocompound profiles, like what exists inside of a plant. It has a lot of inulin in it, and inulin is really great at feeding lactobacillus. Um, and bacillus species in general. So like, your Bacillus subtilis and Amylotrichophorus and Megatherium and all those bacillus species that are beneficial in soil. And so I've been blending up beets and straining them and using beet juice in my compost teas for a while now. But beets also have nitric oxide in them, which stimulate metabolic processes and flavonoid pathways inside of the plant. Um, and so I make my compost teas with oat flour, beet juice, earthworm castings. I'll add some gypsum for calcium because all cells require calcium and bacteria, they're single-celled organisms. So it makes sense to me to add a little bit of calcium. I also add some amino acids because amino acids are building blocks for proteins. Um, and so I'll add a little amino acids, I'll add a little calcium, beet juice, oat flour, earthworm castings, and then after my brew, I'll throw in some like aloe vera, which is a great source of amino acids, a great source of salicylic acid. Um, it has a whole bunch of good shit in it. It has B vitamins. So that's how I make my compost teas, and it sounds kind of like complicated and crazy, but they work fantastically. So yeah, you can 100% use molasses. You can use brown sugar too. To say like one is better than the other, I really don't know because I haven't ever used brown sugar in a compost tea before. Um, but people use molasses all the time. I've done it. It definitely works. Just don't overfeed it. Molasses has so much sugar in it. Use like less than you think you would need. Like there, Elaine Ingham said, I think like God, I don't want to misquote her, but Elaine Ingham, look up Elaine Ingham's compost teas recipes, but it's a really small amount of molasses.
Um.
There will be a website launched for the skunk crosses through Skunk Magazine.
Yeah, you guys make sure you're following Skunk Magazine for sure, and Luna too. I think we only have like 6 minutes left. Believe it or not, that hour went by fast.
Let's go.
Have you ever grown a cannabis strain that bled red? And if so, what causes it to bleed red?
I don't know the answer to that. So, wait, let me back up actually. So, um, a cat is scratching my chair. Stop it. Um, so plants will will bleed clear and cloudy, but when the fluids oxidize, they'll turn red when they dry. And that'll happen with like aloe vera too. If you like take the skin off of it and you leave it out, it'll turn pink. It's because it's oxidizing. So I don't know if the cannabis plant actually does. I've never actually seen a plant bleed red before. It could be
Yeah,
that you're growing something with like a lot of anthocyanins in it. That's just like really, really, really purple. But I've never actually seen a plant bleed red before. But what you could be seeing is like if you break the stem and it bleeds, it oozes and then it oxidizes, and when you come back, it's dried and it's red. I've seen that before, and that's why. It's because it's oxidizing.
I've actually seen it red before, and maybe it is. Yeah,
It could
um,
be just anthocyanin density.
I think that's probably what it is. I mean, you would think that's what it is. I couldn't imagine it being anything else, really. Um, have you ever Have you ever reversed a
A
male
male
to
to a female.
female?
So female to male for sure. If you use silver thiosulfate, it'll like it'll break down all the ethylene in the plant, and ethylene is what will create like a female plant. And so when you deplete all the ethylene by adding silver thiosulfate, I'm not answering your question, I know, but it'll revert it to a male. I don't know how to convert a male to a female. Um, I've heard of people doing it. I know Mr. Toad did it. He talks about it. Um, that's Tony Leba. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, uh, I've heard him talk about doing it before. I'm not sure how to do it. I've never done it.
And then he also goes on to say, have you ever re-vegged a male and used that pollen?
No, no, I've never done that.
Same person. Have you ever open pollinated with half brothers, half sisters from the same father or mother to see what diversity you get instead of choosing a stud male?
So if you have a whole bunch of different phenotypes of males, all your seeds are going to just be way different, and you don't know which male it came from. So going to be that's
Yeah,
not going to be the best approach to breeding for like sale. You could do it just because you want to, and see like what you get, but you're never going to know which male it came from, and you're most likely just going to way over pollinate your plants and end up with a whole bunch of tiny little seeds.
yeah, not breeding with intention there.
Hmm.
Um, okay, I'm new to living soil style. I understand soil pH is not as critical as it is in hydro. Is there a point where it could do harm? I have fed microbial teas as well as some ferments that drop my pH in the root zone to high fours. Notice some lockout. Can it be corrected?
So this is the like actively debated point. We're gonna run out of time. The live's gonna end.
I know,
Um,
man. We are
this
going to run out of time.
this
Yeah.
this is a very debated thing, and I'm probably not going to be able to finish the answer. Um, a lot of people will say it doesn't matter as much. I've seen it matter. Um, I've definitely seen, and a lot of it is trace mineral toxicity levels with too high or low of a pH. Too high, you'll see like a manganese toxicity, which looks like tiny little rust spots within the vascular system, which is often misdiagnosed as like a calcium deficiency. Um, it can be corrected. You can use lime, or a calcium bicarbonate. So like argonite or lime. You can also use wollastonite to bring it back up too. Um, yeah, it can be corrected for sure, but you have to keep in mind that like if you have too much or you have enough calcium already and you add like calcium sources, now you have too much calcium. Um, but I've been pHing my water for a while now, And like I definitely notice a difference. For stubborn plants,